Hi, everyone. Welcome to our podcast today. This is the Cognitive Lead Techniques Mental Health interview series. So today we actually brought in a couple brain expert instead of like mental health. So in this series, our host, Professor Skip Rizzo, will be engaging in dialogue with various experts in the digital mental health field across the course of the series. Today, Professor Skip Rizzo will interview three amazing speakers from the Center of Brain Health at the University of Texas at Dallas. So they are Dr. Sandra Chapman, Dr. Julie Fratantoni, and Mr. Aaron Tate. So we're so excited to have all of them here today. So Techniques Mental Health series is brought by Cognitive Lead Solutions, Inc. So just a little bit about our sponsor today. So Cognitive Leap Solution is founded in California in 2015, has a headquarter in Shanghai and an operation center in China. And Cognitive Leap Solution is committed to utilizing the world leading professional resources and using a lot of high-tech products, applications, and then with latest technologies to address prevalent problems with ADHD, learning, emotional issues among children and adolescents from age to 18. So at Cognitively, we offer a comprehensive closed-loop solution to children attention and emotional challenges. Our intervention includes the innovative virtual reality attention tracker, which is the one that Skip's showing on his virtual background. And we also have 8 online assessments, precision AI-based trained brain optimization training, therapeutic music exercises, and family-assisted programs. So our company has a strong research and development team with world-renowned experts who focus on neurology, cognition, psychology, engineering, and artificial intelligence. So we're currently working on a FDA study for the approval of our virtual reality classroom, diagnosing ADHD in children. So I would like to introduce you to our host, Professor Skip Rizzo. Hi, Professor.
Hey,
Yeah, a little bit about our host today. Professor Skip Rizzo is the director for medical virtual reality at the Institute for Creative Technology at USC. He's also the research professor for USC Davis School of Gerontology and USC Keck School of Medicine Department of Psychiatry and Behavioral Sciences. He has been in the field of virtual reality for a very long time, and he has been serving as an advisor for Cognitive Leap, exploring ways to address attention deficit hyperactivity disorder in children. So hi, Dr. Rizzo.
hey, good to
Yeah.
see you, Jessica. All right, are we ready to get started?
Yeah, do you want to introduce our speakers?
I think I can handle that. You can leave that up and then we'll take it from there. So, um, today's podcast will be different than the previous three in that now we have three people talking because I think it really underscores the importance of diversity and cross-disciplinary input in building out these kind of technologically based tools to improve mental health and brain health and physical health. And I'm really happy to have this gang involved with us today from the Center for Brain Health. And I'll talk a little bit about it later, but I want to introduce the participants. And we'll start off with Sandra Chapman. Um, have more than 50 funded research programs, 200 plus peer-reviewed publications, directs clinical trials aimed at developing, testing, and applying novel multidimensional approaches to build cognitive capacity and well-being, improve life function, enhance supporting brain systems. Her work is transformative in how we care about the brain before it goes wrong and in removing stigma, elevating brain health with scientifically validated measurement, interventions, and practices. This is an area close to my heart as I worked in brain injury rehab as a clinician before getting mixed up with VR. Our second guest from the same center is Dr. Julie Fratentoni, cognitive neuroscientist and head of operations for the BrainHealth Project. This is a longitudinal research study seeking to define, measure, and improve brain health and performance across the lifespan. And I admire this work immensely because it's doing what we need to be doing with these areas, and that is to do the longitudinal work, to do the long-term studies. And we'll talk about this in a little bit. And then Aaron Tate, another good buddy who's the head of emerging tech at the Center for Brain Health and the tech lead on the Brain Health Project. He does work involving immersion, biofeedback, data visualization, and human-computer interface design, and has developed a program that I have a lot of admiration and love for, called Charisma, which we'll talk about and see later. So, okay, let's get started with Sandy. Thanks for being here. I just want to start off by saying when I first visited the Center for Brain Health, you had my brain spinning. And this is, you had invited me for a talk. And when I got there, I was just blown away by what you had created there. Some people that I talked to after our first visit referred to you as a force of nature. Now, you can take that a lot of ways, but I think it is a really good way. And you know, you've created something at UT, and can you just tell us what brought you there? Tell us a little about your background and what you created here.
Yeah, thanks, Skip. It's always great to be with you. You inspire me just with all your thinking, and I love the introduction. You certainly are one of the biggest gurus of all time. When you were a baby, you were starting to think virtual reality. So it's always fun to be in your midst. But I got interested in the brain almost 40 years ago, mainly because I saw so many people labeled and disabled, but not really empowered to take advantage of what they could be. And so I ended up getting a PhD in cognitive neuroscience to understand this complex engine. And over the course of the last 30 plus decades, that's what we've studied, is how is it that people from ages 10 to 100 can do things, and can you really prevent things? Can you do things more from a prevention side? Because right now the brain, we're always talking about after things happen, like after you get a diagnosis, after a brain injury, after you're diagnosed with dementia or PTSD or whatever it is. But whoa, what if we waited that long to think about our teeth? Let's wait till our teeth are all decayed before we started doing things. That would suck. Well, for our brain, we can do more. And so we're really driving the science with the center. And we grew from a team of 25 to over 150 scientists, research clinicians, uniquely focused on defining, measuring, and enhancing our brain's capacity.
Well, when I looked at your bio, the line I love the most was, she's committed to democratizing access to brain health strategies and tools to achieve for brain health what has been done for heart health in individuals aged 10 to 100 from all walks of life around the globe. That's the vision that I love, because I've always said what we need to really advance the use of technology for clinical human purposes and health is Framingham level, tens of thousands of people that are tracked across the lifespan. I think that's where you're going to get, some of the real important data for charting a path on this. So, how do you do this? What is one of your main focuses in these applications, or the main application that you have, the online tool and so forth?
So I think, Skip, one of the biggest online things and things that empower us is to really help people remove the stigma from their brain, because even healthy people have stigma. If I were going to say, okay, all of you watching today, let's do a brain health index, you might go, whoa, wait a minute. I drank too much. I didn't sleep enough. I don't feel like taking it, because we have stigma about when you do anything that looks at your brain and how it's working, that you're just going to tell me what's wrong. So what our goal is to make it approachable to everyone is everyone has their own starting line. And what if next year, and what I tell people, what is the timing of your peak brain performance? And I want everyone to say it's tomorrow. So, and that's really what we're doing. We're defining it in ways that have not IQ, not sort of memory capacity, these things that really have kind of limitations, but the upward potential of innovative thinking and being able to create new ideas. social cognition, which allows us to see people from very diverse backgrounds from ours and learn to navigate that complexity and change the way we look at it. So for me, it's defining brain health in this whole new way of upward potential, rather than think about the brain in that either I'm fine or I'm not. But there's a way to make me every single day do something to keep me as good as I am now. And Skip, don't you want to be as good as you are mentally now as you were? You want to be as good now next year?
I'm praying for that. I'm hoping.
I know, really, right?
I hope
Yeah.
that being in the rough and tumble academic community with your ideas challenged every day and having to document cause and effect and everything, the scientific method, I'm hoping that is
Yeah.
a methodology for me to keep my brain active. But,
And our whole goal is not to just do like the framing hand was really just kind of watch people, kind of census studies of let me document each year, where are you, and see what did you do different from me. This is an interventional study project that we're doing. So it's like, hey, what if you could do things to build your frontal networks to make them work faster or regain 2 decades back of your neural health? So it really is more than just following you to see how well you're doing. It's intervening all along the way to say, these are things that science has proven can change your brain, change your cognition, change your sleep and everything.
So what does this look like for a user to join your program or to get online with this? What kinds of activities and tasks do they engage in?
Yeah, and I think Julie's going to talk some about that and maybe even show the platform. But it's people can go online at thebrainhealthproject.org and register and learn about what it is. But it does an assessment. You get a real life coach, and so I think what our secret sauce is a little bit is it moves beyond just, hey, let me do some computer games. It's really learning how to use the toolbar of your brain. So that you can use it in all the activities that you're doing normally. So, Skip, I might give you ideas on how maybe it's your resilience and your social connectedness that you love people so much. Well, what are things that you could do to make that even stronger in your purpose? Because obviously you're a very purpose-driven individual, or you wouldn't keep seeking. What are ways that we can make humanity better? So those are ways that we look at individual, we coach them, we give them training to help in those areas very specifically that create this holistic brain health index. And we know this, that people are functioning well in their life for very different reasons. So although it's holistic, I can get better for different reasons each year.
Do you think that, and then I want to move to Julie in a minute here, but do you think we can do as much with, say, younger folks that might not have had advantages in life and help them to evolve their brains at a crucial developmental period, say in their teens even, that will carry on as we move forward?
That's my sweet spot. We love taking advantage of middle schoolers. I think that is the area where our brain is undergoing so much change, and we've worked with almost 90,000 youth now, and most of them kids in poverty, that when we taught them how to be innovative thinkers, create new knowledge, rather than be fact regurgitators and make them not feel like they're nearly as smart as what they are, that they've been able to perform at the level of private school educated kids. We've doubled graduation rates, doubled rates in science, math, history, and English. So it's important for people to start really embracing their potential regardless of their environments that they grew up in, that there's something you can do to do more and achieve at levels that you never thought possible.
That's great. That's great. I mean, I'm just a total fan of, how do we apply technology in positive ways to younger folks, so that, like you say, it's no good to wait until your teeth are all decayed to start fixing them,
Yeah, got to start early. And I think you're right. We wanted to start young, and we just finished a group of interns this summer. There were 15 college students, and they said every single college student needs this. I had no idea that my sleep sucked, and that can change my studying and my social skills. And it's like, why is it that our most important brain, we don't have brain health literacy of even the things to do? So starting young, and so that we don't have to recapture those years, really matters. And they are the future. So if we're going to future proof our economy, I couldn't be more hopeful as we begin to inspire them using technology. And that's what COVID did for us, Skip. You probably get this too, is it made people much more open to these online platforms, because before people were like, ooh, I'm not going to do a brain health index online. It's going to be hacked into and different things. But now people see, oh, it can be protected. It can be confidential. And it sure is a lot more fun
Yeah,
and
yeah.
easy to access. And I don't have to go in and get dressed, and I'm just comfortable. So technology, embracing the benefits of technology and keeping track of where you are day to day is really going to be a benefit to us for brain health.
Yep, yep. I think COVID is a very tragic thing, but it did
Horrible.
accelerate our acceptance and exploration in positive uses of technology. So hopefully we can carry on with that. So let me jump to Julie here. And, I don't want to say the corny line about it takes a village, but, in this field, it really does. This field is necessarily interdisciplinary. In order to do really good work, you need to put together a team. And, I had a line in here. Let's see. You manage user experience, content creation, and development of the online brain health dashboard where participants access assessment, coaching, and training. So, what brought you to this point? What got you excited about this project? What was your background that led you on this path?
Yeah, so I feel really fortunate that I got to be a student at the Center for Brain Health. And so I really was raised in just a world of opportunities, a world of looking at the brain in a way that most people aren't, in terms of potential. And I did my PhD, or started there. And that same year, I was completing my clinical fellowship, and I got to be involved in our cognitive training for corporate executives, veterans, did some with teens and individuals with traumatic brain injury, athletes, and really across the board, just I guess selfishly got to apply these strategies, this cognitive training, to my own life, and saw the incredible benefits of just efficiency, learning how to prioritize, learning how to think deeply, how to innovate and be creative, and just things that you're not taught, things to learn about how your own brain works. So I got to experience just the tremendous benefit of that myself. And then truly getting to see, just my friends, the majority of people don't know this, or don't have access to it, or it's not something that's included in just our regular education. And so that really drives me, I think, to be excited to get to deliver this, to create something, leverage technology to scale in such a way that we can share this with all 7.8 billion people in the world eventually. So that makes me excited. And I think there's nothing like experiencing something firsthand and really seeing how it has the potential to have a big impact, and then just wanting everyone else to have access to those same tools.
So, you're trained as a neuroscientist. And so you're like one of the smart people that get involved in psychological applications of, things that enhance brain function and so on. You know what's going on a neuronal level and all that. Tell me about what users do when they go online, and what are the challenges, but what are the benefits for delivering this type of program in this format?
Absolutely. So, what people do just to give you a picture of what it's like to participate in the study. So everything is, of course, online. You do what we call a brain health index assessment. And so this is looking really holistically at all these different aspects of brain health and performance. So this is everything from things like mood, resilience, your daily life, your sleep, your exercise. We look at those higher level cognitive functions like being strategic or abstraction and innovation, and then social components, things like compassion and your social support. So we're getting this really nice picture of where you're at, and we want people to think of this as really a snapshot in time. This is not, a benchmark of looking for where how poorly you did. This is not like in school where you get, if you got a 70, you get a C. It's like, this is a marker. It's like just checking your pulse, or, this is where you are today. And we want people to take these every 6 months. So just having these benchmarks of change over time. And then in between those benchmarks, you get access to our online training. So the cognitive training I was referring to, and these are really tactical strategies, things that you can apply in your everyday life that, are everything from, and really it's not so much about doing that specific thing, but it's taking that thing and doing it within what you're already doing. So we don't want it to be additive. We want to give you a new approach to your day. And I have a good example of that that I can share in a second. And then the last component of it that Sandy mentioned is the coaching. And so every 3 months, so quarterly, you get a virtual coaching call. And the purpose of this really is you get more insight into what your index means. So understanding your score, understanding where you're at, like Sandy said, giving more of this literacy around understanding your own brain, feeling empowered rather than intimidated, and then motivating people and also giving really personalized recommendations, because what's healthy for me is going to be very different than Skip, what's healthy for you, the amount of exercise you need or your type of diet or the ways that you use your brain, the types of problems you're solving and things responsibilities you have. So we want to tailor those recommendations for what's important and what people are passionate about, and to help them do that. So that's kind of what participation in the project looks like. In terms, you hit on something really good, which is barriers, right? That there are, yeah, I'll let you.
Well, I'm just curious about what are the barriers for users, but also what are the barriers from within the field? I know there's, this is a contentious issue about, with, some of the missteps with things like, say, some of these other brain training programs that were commercially available. I won't name names, but some of them overclaimed what you could do. And it was like a mental gym, but they were saying it would reduce your incidence of Alzheimer's, and perhaps it will, but they didn't have any data, and FDA came down on them. I'm not going to mention names here. And there are other brain training programs out there. I like the fact that you have a personal engagement with a coach, I think, because I've never been an advocate that the technology just automatically fixes people. It can be an accelerant or way to automate process. But in the end, it's tools for humans to help humans. So tell me about what the challenges are that you're faced with this.
Yeah, I love that. And we've kind of touched on some of them already in terms of, this outdated view of the brain or the stigma or kind of fear that surrounds that. So there's a lot to overcome there. I think the other big one, and this is probably not specific just to this field, but really we're in an attention economy. Everyone is pressed for time, and people think they either don't have enough time for it, or it'll take too long, or I'll worry about it later. Like, I'm fine now and I'll just wait till I get older. And so we're having to really come at it with this education piece of helping people understand the preventative nature, starting to implement habits now. The time piece, like I said, is getting people to see that, again, we're not trying to add anything to your day. We know that everyone's already doing a lot. We want to just help you approach the things you're doing in a different way. So those are a few of the challenges. There are many, I think. The other thing is, different than maybe physical exercise, where you can almost feel these immediate endorphins, or there's benefits. And to create a lot of change does take time. It's not going to happen overnight. Just because you go on a run once, you're not going to, drop sizes in clothing. But I think in terms of the brain, there's not always, and depending on what it is, I think many of our strategies, I would argue that you can feel an immediate, stress relief, or you can have more aha moments, or you can feel more just kind of in control of your life. So I think, but that takes, again, sitting down and actually trying it to do that. So it's getting over that hump of, like, one, seeing that, hey, this is for me and I can benefit from it. And two, getting people to slow down enough. And I really appreciate you bringing up the point that the field, there is a little bit of hesitancy or even just trust of like, is this actually going to do what what you're saying it is? And then knowing that it's supported by science. Those are huge things that we need to communicate. And so we're constantly thinking about how do we share that with people in a way that can get their attention and compete with a lot of noise that's out there.
Right, right. Actually, the biggest barrier only recently became overcome, and that is in the 90s, late 80s, the acceptance that the brain was actually plastic. I grew up in graduate school here, and you're born with what you got, and you lose it from day one on. And there's a lot of political issues in the study of brain science that go back to the late 1800s around this. A lot of research that was kept under the radar, and it wasn't. I stumbled upon some books in the late 80s when I was doing brain injury rehab. One was called Brain Repair, and I'm forgetting the name of the fellow, but he recounted the history and why we got to that point where people didn't think there was anything you could do to to enhance neuroplasticity, to axonal sprouting, or all the potentiation at the synapse, or all these different things. And that barrier was overcome. Now it's a matter of implementing and documenting, and it's a very big challenge to document that what you're doing in an intervention changes capacity, changes everyday functioning capabilities. I'd like to hear, or if you have any kind of a feel-good story about some of the folks that you've worked with or that you've interacted with from the program. Because I'll start off, I have one, and that is that in the last year I moved my now 88-year-old mom to California. She lives with us, and one thing that we did was she was living alone. Now she lives with us. Have a structured meal every night, and at the end of that meal, we play board games. And I've seen a transformation in her, like playing Sequence is one of the games we like playing. This weekend, we're going to all play Catan. I don't know if you ever played that game, but and I see combination of the social stimulation is why I think having these regular checkups of real people is important, but also the activity of these things really blossoming in her. So what do you got there for?
Yeah. Well, I just want to respond to something you said earlier, which is great. And our interns that Sandy mentioned this summer, these are college students. They still have those same misconceptions that, that you had, that you've got what you've got, or that you can't change it. And so we are still fighting to get that message out. And also that our brain health index can capture those changes. I think it's like this quantifiable thing that, people really haven't had a good way to do that. So we're excited to be able to show people, hey, this is how you can track some of those changes. And we're in the middle of doing a brain imaging pilot right now, where we're really excited to marry up that structural data with our behavioral, and to get a nice index that we can use, since the majority of people in the study will be online only and not get a scan, but that'll be cool to add to that. So in terms of a feel-good story, there are so many incredible people that have engaged on our platform and are benefiting from the strategies. And I'll share this one. And I think it's because it's relatable. It's like, this is just real life, and you don't, the everyday person can benefit. And so this man was a small business owner, and he was the type that worked in a really chaotic environment. He owned his own like wine bar. And so he'd be, he was a 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. plus, worker, always busy, always kind of frazzled. And he took to heart some of our cognitive strategies. And now by doing that, he finishes every day by 2:00. He is, he's like, if I work longer than that, it's because I want to, not because I have to. And then the biggest one is that he was able to really zoom out and look at his priorities and really reprioritize his relationship with his 14-year-old son, and say, hey, so every day he wakes up, and at 6 a.m. they work out together for 45 minutes. And it's like, that's time that you don't ever get back. And so I think this is just a beautiful, just simple illustration of, we're not trying to get you to do more. We want you to get more out of what you're already doing, and to be able to have kind of just to think about your thinking, to think about the way you structure your day, how you manage your relationships. To your point, yes, the the social interaction, that is so crucial, such a crucial component to a healthy brain. And so I love that example. And there are just, there's many more through COVID and all those changes and how we saw them benefit. But this is just one.
I think you said something very important here, and that is that we're not just working on helping people develop their brain function to do calculations better. It's not just about improving a specific element of memory. It's about the total person, and a healthy brain has, knock-on effects in every aspect of human life, your relationships, your enjoyment of hobbies, your engagement in the world. There's just so much, and I think it's a very powerful approach that you guys have developed and are doing the science. There's a lot of great ideas out there, but doing the science. So I commend you on your efforts here to bring the science to this and to do something that is usable for people. And that's part of my work with Cognitive Leap, is on the younger end of the spectrum, because I really think we can engage kids in ways that is going to not just assess their capacities in VR or other technologies, but develop ways to improve their capacities at this early stage in life that carry on. Okay, well, thank you. Let me jump on to Aaron here. I don't have a watch in front of me, unfortunately, so I don't know how much. Oh, we've got time. Okay, good. So, Aaron, when I met you, when I visited there, I was impressed and I was blown away when you showed me, and this was running in the Vive at the time, the Charisma application. And I'd like to show the audience a brief clip of what that involves, and then we can have a discussion about this and other things. I mean, you've done a lot of things. You're the tech lead on the BrainHealth Project, but you remember the 2019 Oculus Launchpad cohort, co-founded VR for Good, in Dallas, Fort Worth area, awarded the mega grant from Epic Games for the Charisma Project. Charisma Project deserves, well, let me let it run rather than babble on here. So let me share my screen here. Jessica, can you enable my screen sharing?
Yes, I have it enabled.
All right, here we go. I'm going to run this little clip, and oops, I've got to unshare and then share again with the audio enabled. Here we go. All right, here we go.
Charisma is a name that we've given to our software program combined with the clinical application. It really is a platform that allows people to practice social skills in a safe environment and practice them in the virtual world, but the skills that they learn transfer into the real world.
We found that Charisma is a great tool for increasing social vibrancy, and part of why it's such a great tool is this virtual reality environment creates a safe place for people to explore different ways to interact socially, and they become more creative, more confident, and more enthusiastic about social engagement.
We have our game developers, our programmers, and our artists create simulated virtual worlds.
We want to be as realistic as possible for the participants so that they have the most immersive experience that they can possibly get.
All the avatars are driven by real people. This is a really unique aspect of our software because we don't use pre-programmed scripts or pre-programmed responses to certain situations. Everything is from a trained Charisma coach.
Okay, now with that, you mentioned about realism, and one of the things I loved about Charisma was in that coffee shop, you had posters from sci-fi movies like The Day the Earth Stood Still, Metropolis. There are little touches all throughout this application that just added a sense of realism and a sense of maybe, I don't know if it's humor or something to make this thing more approachable. So with that intro, please tell me about how you got here and tell me about your work with Charisma and where you see all that going.
Oh, well, first off, thank you, Skip. So yeah, I mean, I came onto the project almost a decade ago now. It was called Virtual Gemini, and I came on as a 3D artist, and I think the reason they wanted, the reason I was picked was because the highly realistic and virtual environments that I had in my portfolio up to that point. And that's one thing that I've kind of even focused on throughout my tenure here, is like I really think like making a higher level of immersion for our participants, and giving them like something they can approach that is as real as possible, without it being in the uncanny valley area, is the sweet spot, and giving them the most the best like social role play, which is the point of our virtual environment, with our clinicians, that the environment and the world that they're doing that in really matters. And so we've really tried to up that game over the last few years. Yeah, but no, that was yeah. So Charisma has been a big part of my experience here at Center for Brain Health. But in the last few years, last couple of years, we've been like focused on the BrainHealth Project, and it's just been taking a lot of those user experience lessons that I've learned with Charisma and applying them in new ways as we've built this platform around the BrainHealth Project, has been really helpful.
Tell me about some of the clinical studies with Charisma. I remember reading one, I believe, from 2019, showing with an autism population that there was actually changes in brain activation in core areas for social engagement. Can you tell us a little bit about some of the research you've done with it?
Yeah, so that was a partnership with Dr. Yang at Yale University, I believe, and that was our Tanner Allen and Dr. Chapman that were collaborating with them. And it was, we did a pre and post of fMRI, and we're actually able to show increased blood flow in certain areas of the brain after 10 sessions, 10 1-hour training sessions over 5 weeks.
What other clinical populations do you think this would be relevant for?
Yeah, no, I mean we've done some work, obviously with autism and ASD, and then recently we've looked at anxiety populations that exhibit anxiety, and just any really kind of branched out from our original kind of focus of that autism spectrum, like to any kind of social deficits.
Right.
And so now it's a little bit less like you don't necessarily need a diagnosis to come and participate in Charisma. It's just any social deficit that you need to work on. Our clinicians meet with you and do an analysis of, like, they have a battery of strategies that they can help with, and they build the curriculum to the individual, and then they but we've consistently kept that 10 sessions over 5 weeks, and showing those lasting increases, and things like ability to initiate a conversation, and recognizing emotions in others, and things like that.
Well, I think this application, one of the things that appealed to me is that you could say it's approaching a generic process that's relevant across clinical health conditions. It's not limited to just, you had a vision to address folks on the autism spectrum, but the potential for what you've built is generalizable to many areas. Whether I'm particularly excited to try to find a way to address social skills, but also substance use issues in these environments. I think you've got a world built that is just ready to go. It's just a matter of of course, the funding to update and change and move things around and so forth, and create challenges, but a tremendous body of work. But let me ask you a hard question. In that video, there was one point where it was said that one of the strengths is a real person driving an avatar, and it certainly is a strength, but it is labor intensive. You've got to have somebody there all the time when the person is interacting. What do you see in the future from your technical perspective about automating some of it? Not that you're going to eliminate the clinician but maybe to be able to maximize trials by having autonomous agents in these worlds and give people more opportunities to challenge. Do you see that as feasible? Do you see it as desirable?
I do. I think that there's definitely a lot of potential there. I've toyed around with the virtual human toolkit that is out there and available from your lab, but I look at stuff like I think there'll always be direct clinician to participant or clinician to user interactions in Charisma, but I do think that we could provide supplemental interactions by having like a virtual human type single player mode where they can get some extra practice. They can practice some basic conversations and things like on their own. Here at UT Dallas, Dr. Marjorie Zilke over at the Synergy Lab has done a lot with the virtual patient project that she has. That's really helping doctors identify certain certain things like by interviewing patients, and
Right.
it's just really helping with bedside manner and things like that. So I definitely see that as a future potential for Charisma as well.
Yeah, in our work with developing virtual patients for clinical training, I always like to say it gives novice clinicians a chance to screw up with a bunch with the virtual patient before they ever get their hands on a live one. And I think that's an important element. The whole area of role playing and practicing, whether for social skills or for developing better clinical acumen, is the future. But it'll be ripe with contention because people in the field will question whether AI has a place, whether their jobs are in peril. The ethics and the professional issues around this. It's going to be a hot topic moving into the next five years at least. I noticed you also you have this neurofeedback driven game called Digital Emotes, and it received an award at the 2020 Games for Change competition. Can you tell me a little bit about this?
Yeah. So that's a little bit of a personal passion project. I was actually part of my kind of master's work, but it was virtual digital emotes is essentially a neurofeedback driven game using the Interaction Muse, and it's virtual environments that have a series of uses. I created one that was really meant to. It was a like almost like a campsite with a fire, and if you kept your mind clear, had a low cognitive load using the muse, the fire would burn, and the you would basically hold back the snow. But if you were unable to clear your mind and really keep a low cognitive load, then it would the snow would start to come down and put out the fire. And it was just kind of like the idea was you were really needed to kind of, it was used to be meditative and almost like clear your mind or just not survive the night.
Yeah.
And then I had another one that was kind of the reverse, which was you needed to really focus, and it was a particle system, which I called nucleus. But it was a particle system that had escaping particles. But if you really focused, you could hold this, orb in the virtual world. And then I also had a lot of facial tracking driven elements to it. So it was I had two versions. I had a VR version and a screen-based version. But on the screen-based version, I used a lot of facial tracking actually as a UI. It was more of an experiment than anything else. But the 2020 Game for Change VR Alcove competition, it was just I had a VR version. I put it out and they seemed to like it. So
I want to try it.
Next time you're in town, come by. I would love to show it to you.
Hey, well, on that, this just popped in my head. What's your impression about the movement in VR head-mounted displays now to embed sensors in the headset, like the HP Omnicept, where you can pick up heart rate, of course, eye tracking, which is becoming commonplace, but pupillary dilation. Do you see that as something that eventually headsets will not only be displays, but also be, assisting and sensing and picking up things of relevance?
I do. I am not, a clinical, I'm not a clinical person. I rest solely in the tech world. I do see a lot of value in it, and I look to, Dr. Chapman and Dr. Fratentoni to keep me, from going the mad scientist direction. But I just got my Omnicept, and I'm looking to see what we can do with, not only charisma, but just, see how we can use the new technologies. And that's what I can bring to the table is I keep, my ear to the ground on all the new technologies and how can we figure out ways to, better expand Dr. Chapman's message and, democratize brain health in the way that, we are trying to do here.
Yeah.
And so if that's hopefully something we can do, with technologies like that, then I think that's the direction we should take it.
Well, I just got to thank all of you for your efforts in this area, because I think it's one of the most important areas that we can address for general healthcare. Go on for hours, but I don't want to do that right now because we do have some questions. But let's bring everybody back, and then we'll take some questions from the audience. But I have a question that I like to ask participants in the podcast, and real quick, and maybe 30 seconds or less each of you. If you had 2 years and unlimited funding to do whatever you wanted in this space, what would you do? Aaron, you go first.
Oh, I need a second to think about it. I think personally for me, I would really pursue, VR specifically. I in where I'm at now, we're doing app-based stuff. I do a lot of different, but the VR charisma stuff is a lot of my focus. I have, an idea for, VR emotion recognition task. What I call another scientist we have here, Jennifer Zients. She has this idea for a smart space simulator that's like a virtual workspace to see, like, help people to like figure out like what their best working environments are. Just anything that's VR and brain health is right up my alley, and I would just love to have like an R&D department that just went to town creating stuff as fast as we could.
I knew there was a reason I liked you, dude, because I share that vision. Julie, what do you think?
Oh, there's so many things I would love to do. I think one that I'm really passionate and excited about is this idea of community, and to your point, the importance of the social connection piece. And so how can we, and then also I've recently become very excited about just the science communication part, the really translating it and making it, tangible and engaging. And so how do we bring groups of people together? And so there's, I guess, just exploring the different ways to do that, of how can we just begin to really embrace science and see that not just like one-off, as people learn it, but really that as a society, we would begin to benefit from this incredible knowledge that we've been uncovering.
Promoting
kind of
user
vague, but
engagement is at the key of all this. You can build the best thing in the world, but if people don't engage with it, they don't do it, it's not going to provide the benefit. So this is where the art comes in with the science. How do you make things appealing and engaging for folks to continue to adhere and break down that barrier? All right, Sandy.
Yeah, there's so much I would do, but my biggest thing right now immediately would be design the feedback for the Brain Health Index so that with the information you get, visualization would make you go, oh my gosh, brain, look what you just did. And so that in an instant you could inspire people, not just, I was low in there. But oh my gosh, brain, you changed just by what I learned. Look at this, that almost this kind of sensor that made you go, brain, let's go, and really kind of strengthen and really empower people how much in control they are of their greatest asset, their brain.
I think that's an essential element here. We see when people are doing physical rehab, something very concrete, a lot of times they don't see the change, that they've been able to supinate or pronate just a few more degrees, or they can reach a little further. They don't see that, but that's a power of using these kinds of advanced technologies. You can show a person, no, let's keep doing this. You are changing, maybe in ways you don't see, and to help people visualize that. I think that's one of the core
That's the
powers.
key. You know, what's interesting to us is we've done randomized trials with physical exercise and our cognitive training, and we actually get changes much more rapidly within like 8 weeks. And physical training, we don't get it even in 3 months. It takes 6 months to a year. So people get physical exercise, but I'm like, yeah, that's good for your brain. But if you think smarter, it's a lot faster and stronger and changes more mechanisms.
Yep. Great answer. All right, Jessica, do we have any questions from the audience that we can pick on here?
Yeah, we actually have a lot of participants who are interested in participating in the study. They're asking if they're not located in Dallas, would they be able to participate?
Yes,
absolutely. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, well, let me just say we need some people from South Dakota and Wyoming. We have every other state represented. So, and we also have 20 countries. So yes, wherever you are, that's democratizing. It had to be people that didn't have to go to these centers of expertise, that you had to be able to access it. So, one of the things I didn't say, Skip, is if I had the money, I'd put it on the phone. Right now, it still is on kind of a iPad and a little bit more, but as soon as we get it on a phone, then everyone has a phone, even homeless people.
Yep, absolutely.
Julie, did you want to add something to that?
No, you got it.
Yeah, we have a participant from Germany who interested in participating. And also, what we are wondering, what type of cognitive training are given to the participant? Like, can you give some examples? Or would that be like a research confidential information?
Sandy,
Julie, I'll let you.
That?
Yeah, sure. You go.
Okay. Sure. So these are strategies that are really targeting executive functions. So these are your frontal lobe functions. And frontal lobe functions, for example, are things like organization, planning, judgment, problem solving, these really key higher level things that we need for our jobs and our lives. And so this training is specifically strategies for how to maximize that. So for example, I'll give like our integrated reasoning strategies are really about how do you, for example, when you're given information, do you try to take in all the details and memorize all of it? Or are you able to really zoom out and get the bigger picture, identify key themes? And then a step further than that, and zooming deep and wide, is really what are the applications? What's the so what for you? And how do you, what do you do with that? So that's kind of one example of, and of course we go into giving you ways to practice this, and there's a lot more detail we can give, but that's kind of on a high level really of just a different way of approaching information that you're taking in. Do you want to add more to that, Sandy?
Yeah, I would just add that this is something that we've been doing 30 years of science. So everything that the trainings that we do isn't just things that we feel good about. It's things that change the brain in these very dramatic ways. And there's also things about stress solutions, sleep, Brain HQ that has a lot of evidence is also part of it. We're adding some diet, different things that have shown it. So if you're interested in your brain, you want to be part of the BrainHealth Project.
Yeah, and I'll also just say that that's really the core, like that's our core training. But yes, it's an evergreen platform, and so over the next 10 years and hopefully longer than that, we're going to continue to partner with experts in different areas like Skip and other professors at universities, and we want to tap into that expertise and roll that out so that as in real time as we're making these exciting discoveries, that you get to be the first to know and benefit from that.
And right now, unfortunately, it's English speaking, but we will be able to translate it. That's one of our goals in the next year, is to make it interpretable through other languages.
On the recording on YouTube, we'll make sure that there's a link so that people that are watching can access and get more familiar with this and make a decision about being a participant.
Great. And we want multi-generations. We want you to get your parents, your peers, and not just say, oh, it's about my spouse or someone older. We want people to say, no, it's about me, but get your whole group of family to be involved and friends and kind of have a brain club.
I'm going to get my mom on it tonight.
Yeah, we actually have a lot of questions coming in, but I'm just going to quickly ask the second one. So what would be, what type of, that question we have answered. The second one is, what is the extent of cognitive training? Like, what's the effect? Like, how much improvement can we see from these trainings? Like, how much have you guys observed so far?
So we've shown that people, when they use these trainings, regain almost 2 decades back of neural function. So we lose about 2% of our brain blood flow every decade, starting in our 20s, and that's associated with slowed processing, less memory, problems in executive function. We've had people gain as much as 12% in brain blood flow, and we're just now able to measure some of these things, and the Brain Health Index has the cognitive measures. So just being able to stay where you are now, if you're in your 20s, is really a good thing. If you're in your 30s, to maintain and continue to incrementally is important. But think about being as fit as you were at 20 with your brain, but as smart as you are at Skip in my age. That's cool. We're the ultimate, right, Skip?
Yep, well, we're the poster children.
Yeah, we have another participant asking about, it's a little bit more about VR than brain health. It's saying the participant observed that being in VR, even just like empty, boring space, always lift her mood. So she wants to ask, like, why is that? And are there any like studies on this effect? I don't know if Skip would like to answer.
Wait, what
I was
did
gonna say,
you
after
say?
that, I might defer to Skip. He's probably helped write that book.
What was the question again? I didn't understand the last part of it. She what?
She always feel like being in the VR always lifts her mood. She feel like she's in a better mood when she's in the VR virtual reality environment. So she wants to ask, why is that? And are there any studies on that effect?
I think, and I don't know what Skip would say, and I think Tate knows it too, but people, when they get in the virtual world, develop this sense of fun. It's, but they do develop the same emotions of stress and anxiety. And that's why we were able to get such quick brain change in individuals that were in this on the spectrum that had been in years of therapy. The people from Yale, the scientists said, I've never seen change both socially, brain-wise in this area. And I think it was the fun when you go in this virtual and you're not afraid, because the rejection that comes in real life, it's like, oh, you mean I can do it? And then you go back but they still felt the stress of doing that. I think about all the things we've done where we teach rules, like you'd never teach someone how to play golf by giving them the rules. And yet in social, don't say that to so-and-so, say this. Well, that doesn't work. You got to be in these virtual environments. And that's why Skip's work works. And it's why charisma works. It makes them do it and practice and have fun. So I love that she said that it does lift your mood. People that before would be a little, I'm not going to do that. Bullies, victims of bullies, PTSD, it has so many benefits. In fact, one of my godchildren, they were being avatar behind it. And when they finished, they went, oh, I need this. I can't ask people for dates. I didn't know. It's all the things that we can't negotiate for ourselves that people, really want a little more confidence, and we don't train them. We just think either you are or you aren't, and it's not true.
That is totally correct.
Yep. All right. Are we at the end of the hour, or do we got time?
Yeah. So let me quickly share my screen with everyone. So just quickly wrapping up, we are a little bit longer than an hour, but it was such a lot of information, useful, very helpful information. So our next speaker, Skip, do you want to kind of introduce our next speaker real quick?
I'll give just a one or two line here. Noah is up and coming virtual reality warlord in healthcare. He's read everything that you can imagine. He's fully informed on the literature, and he's got a creative, visionary spirit. And we're going to explore some of the things that he's done with an online interactive group thing called the Health Club. But this guy, whenever I chat with him, I learned stuff. So I'm really excited about this. And, I'm going to try to make the podcast a mix of, people have been around for a little bit, but also people that are diving in and brimming with energy and new ideas that we can all learn from. So I'm pretty excited to talk to Noah next month.
Yeah, just make sure to mark your calendar. We'll send out emails and also look forward to information on our social media. Like Skip mentioned in the beginning of the podcast, we do have an FDA approval trial for our VRAT, the virtual reality classroom. So that's the one that's on Skip's virtual background. And we have 4 study sites, one of them actually in Dallas. If you're listening and you're physically located in Dallas, feel free to bring in participants. We're looking for 6 to 13 years old kids without diagnostics of ADHD. So just like normal kids, they can come to our site and try out our virtual classroom. So I think that would be fun. They can also play some virtual reality games after too. So if you're interested, you can scan the QR code at the bottom right corner. Yeah.
And it'll be on the YouTube channel for the recording as well. So we'll have all that information available to everybody.
Yes. And once again, I just want to say thank you so much for coming to this is our 4th Tech Means Mental Health series episode. And I have learned so much from our speaker today, and I hope our audience have also learned so much too. So thank you, Dr. Sandra Chapman, Dr. Julie Fratantoni, and Mr. Aaron Tate. And also thank you again to our host, Dr. Rizzo. I believe we all have learned so much about brain health and looking forward to seeing the future of the current research and what's the future for our project lies. And I'm sure there will be people who are looking forward to join your study as soon as we end this podcast recording. And for our audience, the video recording of the events, like we said before, will be available on YouTube on our channel at Cognitive Leap Solutions, Inc. So please feel free to share with anyone who might be interested in the topic. As we mentioned before, we are hosting a 5th event for this series on August 19th at 12 p.m. Pacific time. So please mark your calendar for the upcoming events as well. We look forward to seeing you again at our 5th event. So hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you to all of our speakers again.